All right, so next up I've got some Cambridge NRSV Bibles. I don't have quite as many of them, and I don't have any of the newer editions. So I'll talk about the reasons why I like the two that I have. So the first one that I'll share is the original Minister's Text. This one came in a red calfskin. Let's see, it says it has the Apocrypha, but to be honest, I got somebody else's box. The box doesn't actually match the one that I got. The edition that I have does not have the Apocrypha in it. It's in a calfskin instead of in a bonded leather. So I'm not sure why I've got a wrong box, but there we go. But what I have is the Minister Text in red calfskin, one ribbon. And it's got gold gilding, which in this case is starting to show its age. This is the original one from 1992, and all things considered, the quality of it, given that it's almost 25 years old, is still pretty high. I do appreciate that. It's definitely a thin line. It's a very thin Bible. I'm not a big fan of the funky logo on the cover. It's just something that rubs me wrong about Cambridge. When I talk about how I often wish that NRSV had a great edition, a physical edition that was really, really good, this is the one reason why I consider this one not one of the great editions. I don't like that. Holy Bible across the top is fine. The most recent reference edition that Cambridge has released just last year had a slightly different logo here, which was a little bit more conservative, a little bit more sedate. I like that one. If you're going to have a logo, that one was nice. The Minister Text, it has section headings. It also has a very sharp font. I'm not quite sure how to describe the font. It feels like reading it's like a razor blade scratched the text into the page. It's sharp to my eyes. I have difficulty reading it for long periods of time. I think a different font would have been better. For a quick reference or a quick browse through, if, for example, all you're going to read is the daily lectionary, this works fairly well. The columns are relatively broad, so that there's poetry seems to fit fairly well. Still seem to have a whole lot of the one-word widows as a problem, but could be worse. Complaints that I have regarding the Minister Text, it has these great big huge fat margins, which I don't quite understand why they have these broad outer margins. And then the gutter is very difficult to deal with. Now, fortunately, this older copy that I have was used for quite a few years by the previous owner, and it will lay flat. Because it lays flat, because it's broken in, the gutter seems to work fairly well. I've had one other edition of this where the gutter did not lay flat, and it was very difficult to read because the text actually went right into it. So in this particular regard, I appreciate that this Cambridge Bible is workable. The calfskin is highly grained, has a good feel to it. Calfskin is interesting. It's either really, really smooth or it's really super grainy. This is a super grainy, and I like it. It works. I don't read from this one very often because, as I mentioned before, the text has kind of this sharpness to it that almost hurts to read. Now, this is the other Cambridge Bible that I have. It's a NRA27. This was their premium reference edition. This came out in the late 90s. Double slip case. And this is now available today in a slightly modified form, different logo on the front. As I just mentioned, they had just released or re-released the reference edition last year. It's a different model number than this one. It is a little bit thinner with thinner paper. It is not art gilted. I'll show in a moment how this has art gilt. But the current reference edition is essentially this, just with different materials. This is a black calfskin. Again, it's highly textured. It's almost a crazy texture, but it's really nice. Art gilt. There was a bonded leather edition of this that for a much cheaper edition, the regular gilting as opposed to art gilting. You can see there's this red undergold. It's not a prominent red, it's a salmon, and it's faint. It's not a bold red. Real quick, well, might as well just be right here, end of Daniel. References in a column down the center. And one of the things about this particular edition is that it is a very wide edition. It's almost square shaped. Holding this one up, you can kind of see it's maybe another ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch wider. So it's definitely a bigger Bible. But the benefit of that is the text columns are very, very wide. They're not too wide to be uncomfortable. The character count per line is actually really quite decent. So when they created this particular layout, they took what was probably a very, very good reader layout and then widened it on the page in order to insert those the reference column, rather than squishing together the existing text columns. I think this works out a lot better because it's very legible. It's very easy to read. I enjoy reading from this one very much. Likewise, the poetry sections, because of the wider columns, seem to work pretty well. There's still a lot of one-word widows, and this really becomes an issue of the style or the layout style that Cambridge uses. I'm not sure why they indent the text so far. Without the indentations, they could quite easily get rid of a lot of those one-word widows. But this is the layout that they've been using now for several years. It's obviously not something that's going to change. Had 2 ribbons, really not very good material. I'm not sure why that they chose this material. They use it in a lot of their Bibles. I've heard the claim that Cambridge says that this particular material means that when the Bible is closed and the ribbons are inside the pages, that it does not leave creases in the paper, and that thicker ribbons leave creases. This was initially a fairly stiff cover when I got it. It has softened up quite a bit with use over the last year or so that I've had it. I really like this edition. Now, the only reason why I don't use this as my only NRSV Bible is that it's a very big Bible. It's not something that I'm willing to just bring to church because of its size. It doesn't sit well in the lap. It's one that I would easily put down on the table and open up and read, and sometimes I enjoy holding it. But it's not a portable Bible. So anyway, that's my quick review of the 2 Cambridge NRSV editions that I have. I'm going to move on to, I think I'm going to be doing the HarperCollins Bibles next.